Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to this webinar. This webinar is hosted by Vital Learning Edge and AI CERTs, and it's on smart defense, how AI is redefining cybersecurity and ethical hacking. We are going to get started now as a few more people start joining in. So let me just quickly introduce myself. I am Jess from Vital Learning Edge. I'm the operations manager. I'll be sort of co-hosting on the side. And then there's a few more people that will be hosting this one, so bear with me. But let me tell you a little bit about Vital Learning Edge. If we could switch to the next slide, please. Vital Learning Edge is a provider of quality training solutions for individuals, business, and government, dedicated to empowering individuals and organizations to excel. Our expert trainers with over 25 years of training experience are actively working in their fields, ensuring that every course is relevant, current, and impactful. We offer a range of internationally recognized certification training courses, along with industry standard trainings designed to enhance your capabilities. On the next slide, which we'll show in a moment, is a bit of a quick glance of our portfolio. So we are an AI CERTs authorized training provider or training partner, sorry. So we offer all of the AI CERTs portfolio of courses at either self-paced for the most part, and we will be introducing some instructor-led sessions next year. But we do also offer some of the international recognized certifications from ASACA, ISC2, Cloud Security Alliance, PeopleCert, and more, as you can see here. So let me hand over to AI CERTs. Shrishti, do you want to take over for the next part?
Yeah, thank you so much, Jess. And I would like to welcome all the people joining us from different parts of the world for this exciting session today. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce a bit about, I would like to introduce me. I am Srishti. I'm the events manager at AI CERTs, and I'm delighted to be a part of this wonderful session today. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to introduce AI CERTs, the organization who has collaborated for today's session with Vital Learning Edge. At AI Certs is a global certification body dedicated to building trusted role-based AI certificates across industries. Our mission is to help learners, professionals, and organizations gain real, job-ready AI skills through structured learning paths, hands-on assessments, and globally recognized certifications. We work closely with universities, training providers, enterprises, and government to bring AI literacy and AI readiness to scale. Whether it's cybersecurity, cloud, data, ethical hacking, business, or leadership roles, AI CERTs ensures professionals have the right competencies to use AI responsibly, securely, and effectively. So today's session aligns perfectly with our vision, helping individuals understand not just what AI is, but how to apply it confidently and ethically in the real world. Moving on, this will be the agenda for today's webinar. This flow will help you understand both the technology and the responsibility behind applying AI in cybersecurity. It's now my pleasure to introduce our speaker for this session without any delay. So, welcome Mr. Michael Stout. Michael is an executive coach and AI consultant with deep expertise in cybersecurity, digital transformation, and artificial intelligence. Originally from Northern California, he began hacking back in the 1980s, long before cybersecurity became the discipline it is today. And he went on to build a distinguished career in senior IT and security leadership roles. Today, he works closely with executives and teams to help them harness AI and data to strengthen resilience and drive strategic outcomes. His work focuses on helping organizations embed AI-driven insights into governance, risk, strategy, processes, and workflows, essentially bridging innovation with execution. Michael delivers leadership and solutions that combines technical precision with human-centered principles, preparing organizations to rapid change. He holds a master's degree in IT with a focus on cyberware defense, along with multiple certifications in AI and machine learning. He has lectured for intelligence agencies, military groups, and a few enforcement, and has spoken internationally on emerging cybersecurity threats and evolving impact of AI. We are incredibly honored to have him today with us. Michael, welcome, and the stage is all yours now.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm incredibly honored to be speaking in Australia. It is 12:30 where I'm at. I live in London, originally from Northern California, as I was introduced, but I am over here now. But I like an interactive session. I know that we have a number of people online. I hope to have time to answer your questions and maybe give you some demonstrations. What we ask is you put them into the chat, and that'll be moderated by Jess, who will then feed them to me, and I'll answer as many as you want. I mean, I've been drinking coffee since 10 o'clock tonight, so I should be up well into the morning. So if you want to stay longer, I'm here at your disposal. What we're going to talk about this morning is we're going to discuss what is ethical hacking, why it's important, and then we're going to segue over into artificial intelligence, machine learning, reinforcement learning, etc., and give you the basics of both of those disciplines, then kind of merge them together, then talk about the Australian market. I've done some research into Australia. I work for the UK Ministry of Defence, so that we do get quite a few folks from your forces over here, and of course, working with the American military, also came in contact with a number of Australian forces. So I have a good understanding of your infrastructure, your government, etc. And there's a lot of compatibility. In fact, what you'll find is that the Australian government adopts a lot of the U.S. government's NIST frameworks when it comes to information and cybersecurity. But let's first start talking about the differences, the fundamentals of artificial intelligence. Now, what is AI? Now, AI is this concept that everyone's talking about. It's really a buzzword because we really don't have AI today. What we have is machine learning, and we call it AI because everyone's excited about AI, and it gets people's attention. Artificial intelligence, right? But if we look at AI, AI is broken down into three broad categories. One is narrow AI, the other is general AI, and then we have super AI. And what we have today is pretty much narrow AI. Think of narrow AI as a specialist. AI that can do a specific task. Think of Siri, think of Alexa, think of Netflix, recommendation engines, things that are trained to do one thing and one thing very good. Now, then we get to general AI, and this is kind of the next step forward. This is what everyone is rushing to get today, is general AI, because general AI is the equal to us, whereas narrow AI is the specialist. It can do a specific task that we've trained it to do. General AI will be our equal. It's the human level intelligence. Think of Data from Star Trek, Next Generation, or think of C3PO. Machines that we can have conversations with, that can think out of the box, that can think beyond a Netflix recommendation engine. Something that will say, well, perhaps with that Mad Max movie, you want some popcorn or a pizza. Shall I contact Domino's for you? Would you like what you had last time? So it's more interactive, and we're not quite there yet. It's really interesting how we're getting close to this with what we call agents, and we'll talk about agents in a bit. But we're not there yet. But that's the big thing that we're moving towards. And everyone's racing to right now. Your Google, your OpenAI, your Anthropic, etc. And then we have super AI, and this is the mastermind. This is going to surpass human intelligence. This is the Terminator. Okay, so the Terminator scenario is where we have something that doesn't need us anymore. Yeah. So what we have with the Terminator, one of the classic examples is the paperclip bot. And I'm paraphrasing it just to make it a little shorter, but the paperclip bot is a narrow intelligence that knows how to make paperclips. That's all it does day in, day out. It makes paperclips. So it takes iron, it makes them into paperclips and produces paperclips. But somehow it gets general intelligence and it learns to communicate and to understand things around it. So what does it do? It starts to say, hey, I know how to make paper clips. I need to make more paper clips. That's my sole function, is to make paper clips. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to learn how to make money on the stock market, manipulate the stock market, make tons of money, buy factories, make more paper clips. And then eventually it gets to the super intelligence where it's like, hey, you know what? I don't need humans anymore. In fact, humans have iron in them, and it's easier to get that iron than it is to get the iron from the ground. So I'm just going to eliminate the humans because all I need to do is make paper clips. We're not to that Terminator stage yet. Are we going to get there in my lifetime? Doubt it. It would. My theory on all this is that it will get here when we have even general AI. I think that one of the big barriers is the heat generated by these engines. So, or by these computers that are running these models and engines. When we can get um, when we can get quantum computing at room temperature, then I think that's going to cross the physical barrier. I think we're going to cross the algorithmic mathematical barrier a lot sooner than we will the physical barrier. But once we get that physical barrier, we'll be able to do a lot more with artificial intelligence. Now, okay, I spoiled the show. It's not about AI, it's about machine learning. But machine learning is very powerful. Machine learning has three basic paradigms. We've got supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. The good way of remembering these are that supervised learning is about labeling. Let's talk about house prices. If I go to Brisbane and I see a postcode and I see square meters of a house, I can make a pretty good assumption how much that price is going to be because I have all this labeled data. I have all the data from the estate agents. The estate agents have provided me labeled data, prices, square meters, a postcode, etc. So that's a good example of supervised learning. I can say, okay, well, I've got a postcode, I've got a square footage, and it's going to be about this price. Yep, I've got this price, it's in this postcode, it's going to be about this much, this square meters. Now, unsupervised learning would be throwing the data in without labeling. And the way that I like to look at it is that whereas labeled data creates a nice little chart, yeah, unsupervised learning are going to create clusters. It's going to find connections that we don't see. Could we make these calculations? Absolutely. But the computational power to make all the different connections is beyond us. We physically could not do it in our lifetimes. So what we do is we throw it through an algorithm, we've trained it, we've got all sorts of data sets, etc. Bring all that together and we find clusters. And you know what we find out? We find out that if there's a postcode in Brisbane and that there's a certain square meters in that home, and it's of a certain price, we notice that there's a cluster of them over here that actually have a higher price, and they're all yellow. So yellow homes in Brisbane actually sell more than other ones in the same postcode given the price. So what we could do then, we could speculate and say, okay, well, the ones that are green are less of a price. You know, the price is lower. So what I can do there is I can go in, I could buy a home in Brisbane in a postcode for a lesser price because it's green, paint it yellow, flip a profit. Yeah, so that's an example of unsupervised learning. Then we have reinforcement learning. Now, reinforcement learns through rewards and penalties. It adapts over time. I have a daughter, she's 17 now, but when she was small, I observed her doing reinforcement learning. And anyone who's had a child knows this, or anyone that's played with a baby knows this. Babies have their hands. When they come out and they're moving, they really have no control over their arms. It's very similar to people that have like spinal cord injuries. They have to relearn how to use their limbs. Babies are learning how to use their limbs. They don't quite understand their hand is attached to them until, they hit themselves and they cry. But what they learn is through trial and error that they can pick something up. And that's what reinforcement learning is. Imagine we have a robot that has all the mechanics of my hand and arm. And we take that robot and we allow it to work in the given space it's got. So it's going to do this, it's going to do that, it's going to go all over the place. It's not going to really know where it's going. And these are all penalties until it comes down and does this. And it gets a reward. I mean, this only has an infinite number of movements. So eventually it will come to this. And then it gets a reward. And then it's going to grasp. And then it's going to pick it up. And then we train the model. Yeah? So reinforcement learning learns from rewards and penalties and adapts over time. It is what we primarily use when we talk about robotics. Now, let's look at why machine learning is so different. So machine learning, okay, let's talk about a regular application. Applications, we've been making applications for hundreds of years, actually. Algorithms, they're just algorithms, and they're taught to make a decision based on programming code. So we can write a program that will do something based on what it's programmed to do. But machine learning allows computers to make decisions without explaining the program. Yeah. So it could be said that machine learning is learning by a teacher, and I'm sorry. Let's do that again. Machine learning is learning. Machine learning. We're teaching it. We are the teacher of machine learning, and then if we get to AI, AI doesn't need us. It's self-taught. Yeah. All right, automation. We know what automation is. Automation, we primarily deal with robotics. Robotics are going to be dealing with those, with that reinforcement learning going back and forth, and we are going to be training it either to learn itself or that it goes and it does a specific task that we've taught it to do, that we programmed it to do. But that task, it can also adapt to its environment. So if we have a robot that's in a production facility and something is slightly off, it can adapt to it or raise a flag or whatever. When we talk about deep learning, these are the deep data sets. And this is kind of what I mean by self-taught. Because with deep learning, you're going to get data into the systems, which you're going to get data out of the system that we don't see those connections to. In a way, this is going to be similar to what we have with our unsupervised learning, because the databases we're going to be dealing with are not labeled. They're not going to be related. They're going to be data that's text or PDFs or images, statistics. Any number of things can go into these deep learning data sets, and the deep learning is going to go in there, and we're going to make connections with them. It does take training, but it is quite possible to do. Let me just see here. So if artificial intelligence is the box, machine learning is the technique, and machine learning is the teacher, and deep learning is self-taught. So here are the myths. We got a number of myths when it comes to AI. I like to say that there are two types of people. There are people who are going to use AI to do their jobs, and there's people who are going to use AI to do their jobs. Now, you might say I said the same thing, and I did, but there's a slight inflection between the two. You will have people, we have people today. I deal with this all the time. I have people today. Are you using AI? Oh yeah, I use AI all the time. Well, what are you using it for? Well, watch this. And they do their job. They produce an email. They get a spreadsheet done. They do all sorts of things in the office. Well, they're doing AI to do their job. The ones that are going to succeed. Oh, and I'll give you one, a cybersecurity one, just recently. Cybersecurity one, I was dealing with someone doing a penetration test. They were using Nmap, which is the #1 program you want to use in cybersecurity. They're using Nmap to ask the engine, ask the LLM, the model that they're using, what is the Nmap switch to scan an LDAP server, and it gives it to them. Well, rather than just having AI do their job, why not go into AI and do what we call prompt engineering and get more out of it? Give it the scenario. Tell it what to expect. Tell it who you are. I am a cybersecurity professional. Because I'll tell you what, if you go, depending on how the AI feels, it may not answer your question. If you ask it how to scan something and it thinks you're hacking, it'll say, I can't do that. That's not ethical. So you have to learn how to work with it. You gotta learn how to interact with it. And that's called prompt engineering. And so learn how to prompt engineer and ask AI to help you solve the problem rather than just having it do your job. Use it to do your job, and then you extract more out of it. So ask it, I'm trying to get an LDAP server because I'm trying to enumerate the users on this. I am a cybersecurity professional. I have a situation where I need to account for all connections or all users. And then the AI is going to give you more information. And by all means, read what it says. Most people today, and I do fall into this trap, if I'm busy, I'll ask, ChatGPT a question. It'll come out, give me the answer, and then I'll just move on. Well, I didn't really do anything. I just moved on. I didn't read why, but you really should read why. It's not going to replace you. It's going to enhance you. It's going to help you analyze more. It's going to augment you. And that's where the true power is. And what we need in cybersecurity today is more people using AI and knowing how to use it, because it can be misused. Anyone can press a button. Yeah. Anyone can run a vulnerability test. Being able to interpret that vulnerability test and react on those vulnerabilities is what's going to make the difference between doing your job and doing your job. AI is always right. Nope, it's not always right. You might have heard the phrase that AI hallucinates. Well, let me break it to you. Without going into the maths, yeah, AI does nothing but hallucinate. It does not know the answer. It doesn't know why it's giving you that answer. What it knows is it knows how to interpret using natural language programming. It knows how to interpret what you've asked it, breaks that down in what are called tokens, and then searches for tokens to answer that question. And statistically, we know that if I ask what the color of the Australian flag is, it's going to come back and say red, white, and blue. Yeah. So it doesn't know it, but it knows statistically because it's been able to read that and then understand what a flag is and then understand Australian flag, go in and find it and then repeat it back. I mean, but it could say purple, garbage in, garbage out. That's all AI is. Believe it or not, we can, and that's one of the attack vectors I'm dealing with right now in my security practice, is identifying attack vectors where we can spoil an AI engine to get false information. I'm working on that with defense. But no, it can do false positives, and it can give you incorrect information. And that is where your domain knowledge needs to come in. Because I can teach you how to be a hacker, ethical hacker, of course, but a lot of people will sit there and they will just start to use AI to be an ethical hacker. Fine, they are doing their job, yeah? Your ability to interpret those results and applying them to your client or employer is going to make the difference between you doing your job and doing your job. Yeah. So let's see. AI is only for large enterprises. Absolutely not. It's scalable. I don't like saying that I don't like saying that I make people redundant, because I don't. My job when I go into an organization, I'm thinking of my client, one of my big clients here in the UK. They're downscaling. They need to do more with less. And I'm showing them how to do this. And they're happier because they thought that by losing staff, because they're going through some reorganization, but by losing staff, they were going to be overloaded with work. But no. They've gone from a staff of 40 down to 20. We believe by the end of the year, next year or mid-year, we're going to be down to maybe 10 of the key principles. And they have been terrified that they're going to have all of this workload dumped on them. But I've been able to show them, a very small company, just how to use Copilot. And that has made a world of difference. And it helps them out. And I truly believe, and this is where I'm a big evangelist of AI, is that I don't think AI is about eliminating jobs. I think AI is about eliminating hours so that we can get a 4-day work week. Yeah? That everyone deserves a 4-day work week because we're going to be more productive. So, AI and cybersecurity and ethical hacking. Well, let's talk about ethical hacking. What is ethical hacking, first of all? Ethical hacking is hacking with permission. We take the mindset of a black hat hacker. You have a number of hackers out there. You got white hat hackers, which are the good guys. These are the consultants, the ones that don't do any harm. You've got the gray hat hackers, which I would probably say that I would fit into that category because some of my defense work, but I do work for the good guys, at least the ones we think are the good guys. And then there are the black hats, and the black hats are the bad guys. We want to take a black hat mentality because we want to break into that box. We want to break into that computer, break into that network, see what we can find out, and demonstrate to our client where their weaknesses are. Because if we can show them their weaknesses, if we can show them how to fix them, then the bad guys that are truly there to cause malintent will not be able to succeed. So that is the purpose of ethical hacking. Now, cybersecurity, what's the difference between cybersecurity and information security? That's a question I often get asked because people will use the terms interchangeably. Information security is the overreaching discipline. Information security deals with policies. It deals with classification systems. It deals with, the stuff that us IT guys don't like, right? It deals with all the paperwork. But that is what we're protecting, is we are trying to protect the assets of an organization. And those assets will be information primarily, and that information traverses over bits and bytes on a network, which is cyber. So when we talk about cybersecurity, we're talking about protecting the equipment. And the burden to the ethical hacker or the cybersecurity expert is a lot different than that of the information security expert. For the cybersecurity expert, for the ethical hacker, our job is to identify a vulnerability and to show that there is an exploit for that vulnerability. We don't necessarily have to equate what it means to the organization. That would be more penetration testing. And that's kind of the bridge between information and cybersecurity. In penetration testing, I'm going to spend more about learning about your organization than I will actually touching the keyboard, because I need to understand what these particular devices mean to your organization, what information is found on them. I'll give you an example. Nessus. Nessus is one of the programs that we work on in AI ethical hacking. And Nessus will give you what's called a CVSS score, Common Vulnerability Scoring System. And it's got a lot of metrics on what that vulnerability means to an organization, or what it means to the world in general, not what it means to the organization. Because in order to equate that, we have to know something about the company. But the ethical hacker is going to see two vulnerabilities. They'll see one with a 3, which will be a low vulnerability, and they'll see one with a 7, which is a high vulnerability. The ethical hacker may have a tendency to say that that 7 is the one that needs the money. That 7 is the one that needs the attention to remediate. But if we understand the organization, and we understand that that one that has a 3 is the CRM system, the customer relationships management system. It's got all of the customer data in it. We need that on a daily basis, every hour that we're open, versus the one that has a 7, which is a fax server. And it's for that client in Alice Springs that doesn't have email because they heard that it's vulnerable, and they don't want to use email. So they fax in an order once a month. Well, that doesn't have the biggest concern to us, does it? No. But AI is going to allow us to digest that information and actually deliver more than what's expected. Yeah, we can deliver more as ethical hackers by using AI and getting closer to the penetration step and adding value. But let's take a look at this. What can we use? What we can use AI for? Threat detection. Now, AI has the ability of massively analyzing data sets. So much that it can almost in real time spot anomalies that we would miss. So imagine this. You have an AI-driven intrusion detection system, or SIEM, or SOAR. And that system is going to analyze things almost in real time. It's got a database, it's got massive amounts of information, and it's able just as fast as ChatGPT is to write a limerick of, some poet. It's able to identify an anomaly and warn you of it in near real time. Also, phishing prevention. Using natural language programming, it's able to read the email and look for the telltale signs of phishing. Things like the sense of urgency, common spelling errors, the fact that it doesn't have your name in it. Yeah. And then when we throw it back to the engine and augment it with all this other data that it's been able to analyze, it might be able to recognize patterns in that email that was found in other emails that through reinforcement learning, we clicked and said that was a bad mail. Let's talk about spam for a second, just in machine learning, because this I told you about the houses, but let's talk about spam detection. Supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement. Supervised learning with spam detection is looking for those numbers, looking for those phishing anomalies, looking for the misspelled words, the sense of urgency, the things that we train are the things, we train our users to be aware of. In our cybersecurity awareness training, we train them to look out for these as telltale signs. We can train machine learning for that. We can label it. We can use supervised machine learning so it can identify those emails that are malicious. Supervised Oh, sorry, unsupervised machine learning is going to look for the anomalies. Hey, this same email was sent to 5 other people in our organization with just slight variation. Also, because we subscribe to some service, it's also been found in the wild. So boom, we know that that's a suspicious email. Even though it's spelled correctly and everything's right, we notice that it's spam because it's the same email sent to everybody. And then when we talk about reinforcement learning with spam detection, that's the button that you have in Outlook if you use Outlook. That's the button where you say, not spam, spam, not phishing, phishing. The email comes through the supervised and unsupervised vectors. It then gets put into the spam folder. And then you open up your spam folder and you say, oh, that's not spam. And you mark it unspam. You are training the machine. You've actually rewarded it so that mail is now understood to be not spam. And what created that mail and the vectors in that mail are not spam. On the flip side, if you see something on the inbox and it is spam or phishing, and you mark it as spam or phishing, you penalize it. And that could penalize the user, the IP address, and you just name it. Behavioral analysis detects insider threats. Insider threats like compromised credentials, because we're monitoring our baselines. Baseline human behavior that we Michael comes in, and Michael, he's known to put in his password incorrectly a couple times a week, but now he's doing it every hour. Okay, all right, that could be something that could raise a flag, but we can use behavioral analytics. It really is redefining penetration testing. It's redefining penetration testing because what I'm able to do is I'm able to automate a lot of the burdensome things which I would generally be able just to that I used to have to spend a lot of time or even bring in a team to do. It augments my time. I can analyze reports. I can analyze data. It allows me to scale up very quickly and read things and digest the information a lot faster than I could on my own. I can also create sophisticated attacks. And again, this is where your prompt engineering is going to come into play, or building your own engine to do it, because you need to know how to interact with the chat GPTs, etc., in order to be able to show that you're legitimate and that it's not going to flag you as being illegitimate. And then you can do things in real time. You're able to test in real time to see the changes, monitor them, and play with it. I mean, I find penetration testing a lot more fun now with AI because I'm able to spend more time on a specific machine, and I'm able to try different vectors. I'm able to try Metasploit. I am able to try, not just doing Nmap and Nessus. I'm able to try other tools because the time I save in researching and getting the scripts ready, I can just go to my the model that I built, and I built my own model for this. It's based on ChatGPT, that I'm able to focus on that and run more attacks on the machine to really get it down more. And to be honest with you, I haven't really discovered any additional threats, but it is going to happen because AI is also being used on the bad side. Yeah, the automated incident responses, definitely. The fact that we can do things a lot faster. We've got our SIEMs, which are our intrusion detection systems. These are systems that grab endpoint information from various nodes, brings it in, gives us that single pane of glass that we want to see, those dashboards that are showing what's going on in my network. I could not do this without artificial intelligence. I could not digest all of that information and look for the real attacks. Now, what's interesting is that I have a metric. I shoot for my AI to discover 80 to 90%. 80% is probably more realistic, but 80% of all incidents, I want the AI to capture and take care of, leaving me 20%. Whereas before, I was happy if we could monitor and get 40% caught, I'm now doubled that to 80%. I could push it to 90%, but I like to keep the threshold down just because we have to retrain the systems. And by reinforcing that it's made the correct answers on that other 10%, I find helpful. Now, we have three types of issues we're looking at when it comes to detection and response. We're dealing with events, and events happen all the time. Events we do not have to worry that much about, but we can monitor them easier with AI. Events happen all the time. They are not good. They are not bad. Michael logs into his account. He uses the correct password. That's an event, not a problem. That's what I'm supposed to do. Michael logs in and he puts in his password incorrectly. That is an event. It's not a good one, but it happens. You get a spam message. You get a phishing email. You delete it. That's an event. It becomes an incident when you open that email. And you open that email, and I'm using generalist terms here, but you open that email, and when you open that email, there's an invisible pixel on that email. And what that invisible pixel does is it goes back to a database on the internet and says, this email sent to Michael Stout has opened up. And it's got my IP address, and it's known when I've opened it. And I forward it on to Jess. And what does Jess do? Jess opens it up. And what happens there? It sends back. It doesn't say that Jess has opened it, but it does show the time and the IP address that email was opened on. So we've lowered our security stance in that incident. And we've lowered it because we validated that that is a correct email address. Therefore, that email address can now be harvested and used in other attacks. Then it becomes a breach when that pop-up comes up and says, "Hey, Michael, you want to see the latest version of AI CERTs, AI ethical hacking? Press the button and enter your Microsoft credentials." And I enter my Microsoft credentials, and I get a spreadsheet that says, "Well, it doesn't look like what I'm looking for. Must have been a mistake." Well, now I've created a breach because I've given my data to a third party, to an outside party, who could then compromise either my data or compromise my system. Now, again, some people will say that's an incident. I call that a breach because, to me, I raise a very high high bar when it comes to information security. I'm the CISO at a financial fund here in London, so we follow the rules very, very strictly. But where AI helps mostly is in that pattern recognition. It's able to find anomalies very quickly. And then when I mark it with a SOAR, our security orchestration, automation, and response systems, that's our intrusion prevention systems, then they can react much faster. But that sweet spot is finding that, up to 80%, let the AI take of it, leave that 20% of me to have to research. Okay, responsibility. Now, I have to admit, I love technology. I love technology. I think that AI should just be used everywhere. I was the one that gave my daughter, when she was 6 months old, an iPhone. Yeah. And it didn't have a SIM card in it, but she had an iPhone. And she was, by 9 months, able to hit that iPhone and get her Disney movies. Yeah. So I regretted it. You guys had a law come into force. I think in the last 24 hours, 48 hours.
Yep.
That is
social media ban.
Yeah, yep. The social media ban, exactly. Woo. Which I think is a good thing, having had a daughter trying to get that TikTok away from her. So yeah, I'm kind of a hypocrite on this because I do believe that AI should be out there and everyone should be using it. I've gotten it for her college courses. She's in university right now, so I've gotten her the paid version, but I'm teaching her how to use it responsibly. Now, one of the things that we need to understand is there are different philosophies when it comes to AI. We have the EU Act, the EU AI Act, and this is known as the Brussels effect. And I'm not being nationalistic. I live in the UK. I lived in the Netherlands for 15 years. My daughter still lives there, so I have close ties to Europe, and I've not lived in the US in well over 25 years. I'm not responsible for anything going on over there, so that's what I like to tell people. So the Europeans do not have a play in AI. They really don't. And it irks me because the UK is also very aligned with the EU, because the fact is that even though they separate from the EU, they trade with the EU, so they have to adopt a lot of the laws. So what the Europeans have done is they have put in what's the EU AI Act, which is coming into effect, and it puts a lot of restrictions on what we can and cannot do with artificial intelligence. So much so that I have the highest paid ChatGPT model. It costs me $200 a month. Absolutely love it, but I can't have it interface with Canva as my brother can at home. I can't have it interact with the MCPs, with the other agents out there that people outside of the UK and the EU can. And that's because the Europeans are putting on what are called guardrails. And guardrails are good. I'm not trying to say they're not, but it is holding them back. And I'm afraid it's going to hold back the UK as well. I'm not sure what I do have a law here that I'm going to show you when it comes to AI. It's your law. But there are three major players out there. There's going to be the Americans, which take a kind of a cowboy mentality. Well, with the new administration, they're taking a very cowboy mentality, which is let's implement AI, and if we break something, we'll fix it. Yeah, and that's kind of the way we work. The Europeans don't have a game, so they're saying we're going to regulate our play, or we're going to regulate our seat at the table. Yeah, and then we got the UK, which is kind of like, well, we kind of want to be more like the Americans, so we'll let things happen, but we're going to be yoked in by the European laws. And then you have the Chinese. Chinese, they want to dominate AI by 2030, and they don't care about anything. Harvest data, great. The TikTok stuff your kids had, they're harvesting that. Yep, they're using everything they have. Nothing. It's like when they want to build an airport, they say, we're going to build an airport here. They get it done in a year. They clear everyone out the next day, and they start building the airport. So, got to find the right framework. Now, you guys have a law. I'm going to come a little closer here and open this up. Here is your law. I got to be honest, I've not looked at it in depth, but it does count for certain things. And this is very similar, and I do like this law. This is very similar to what we have in Europe. This is available on your government website. People have to be accountable. You have to have transparency statements. That's one thing that the Europeans insist on. And that is one of the ethics that we have, is that the decisions made by AI have to be transparent. We have to know why and how it made that decision. If you've gone for a job interview and you didn't think you did well on that job and you didn't get the job, you have a right to ask, did you use AI? And how was AI used to make the determination that I was not qualified? So that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. And you got to have strategic approaches. You've got to have accountability in it, internal use case registers that you're going to have to show how you've trained your models, etc. So you have a pretty robust law there, and it's probably going to get you places. It's not a bad law. I've seen far worse. Then we have the GDPR, which is, of course, the European General Data Protection Act, which I come from California. We have something similar. Basically, in California, we took the GDPR, put the state of California on there, and that's our privacy law. Because in the United States, we don't have a federal privacy law. And NIST. And NIST has the National Institutes of Standards, which the Aussies also take a lot of NIST standards, as do other people in the world, other nations in the world, and they have a standard to follow as well. But it's voluntary. There's no accreditation or anything like that. Ethics. So you want to make sure that your engines are not going to be biased. Yeah, biased is an issue which can be difficult, because if we looked at the first version of ChatGPT 2 that I worked on before the big changes, before the big announcement, it had a lot of bias in it. And whether I agreed with the bias or not is irrelevant. But the models were primarily trained by white, affluent males from California who happen to be pretty liberal. So if you asked it questions about race, depending on what race you were asking the question about, it would give you answers or say, no, can't answer that question, it's racist. So the models can inherit the bias of the trainers. So the way we get around this is using diverse data sets. We need to, and in those data sets, as we build the data sets, we want to eliminate any types of things that could be biased. Is marital status really important? Is the sex of a person really important in the decision that this model is going to make? And if it's not important, then we remove it because we don't want it to be biased. We need to enhance privacy. Now, I think it's going to be really interesting. Well, the common idea of privacy is that privacy does not exist to those that are dead. So, I don't know how that's going to work out, but, if I ask who is Michael Stout on Atlas, I get answers. So I'm not sure if that's crossing any privacy laws or not, but getting information about an individual into a search engine is one thing. Getting information on an individual into an AI model is another. Do we have the ways of protecting privacy so we can get that information removed? These are conversations we need to have as we're implementing systems in our organizations, if we're building our own systems, and also for national legislative bodies to consider when allowing certain models in. And we also want AI to focus for the good. Now, I work in defense. So for me, weapon systems, is that for the good? I don't know, because what is good can also be used for bad. It's the first time I came to Heathrow, the sign said no offensive firearms, and I was very cheeky and said all my firearms are defensive. The fact was I didn't have any firearms, but okay, fair enough. I got searched. But the fact of the matter is that a handgun can be for defense as well. But we want our endeavors to be for the betterment of mankind. We want it to be available to as many people as possible. We don't want it to be an elitist technology. We want it to benefit man. How do we build for, how do you guys get up to speed? Well, let me tell you, you're in a really good situation right now because 42% of employers believe a shortage of AI skills is a barrier to adoption. But most of them want to adopt AI. We have 3.5 million unfilled cybersecurity jobs worldwide. The trends in AI are exponential. If you think AI is growing in the office, in business, it is exponentially growing in cyber. We are seeing it every day. The trends are deep fakes, highly personalized phishing, supply chain attacks, identity theft, identity agent risk. There are two platforms that came out in the last, well, they've been around for a while, but now they're really making a lot of headway because I can go subscribe to these, Worm GPT, Kawaii GPT. These are ransomware sites that democratize ransomware, unlike we've ever seen before, because it used to be that you would only go for ransomware to the big fish. You would go to the big organizations, the big companies. Why? Because they had the money, and the amount of time you needed to organize and perpetrate a successful ransomware attack took a lot of effort. So you want to go for the big fish. Well, now with these platforms, I'm able to go for the medium and lower size fish with the same effort, with a simple effort. Leave the big fish for the big people, and believe me, those big fish are using AI to protect themselves. Go for the middle, go for the bottom. These people don't have the resources. They don't think that they're not going to have an IT manager, or information security manager. They're going to have an IT manager who's doing everything, including security. Yeah. The good news and we call that the democratization of ransomware. The good news is that in the UK, we have lots of resources. We have lots of people working, but we don't have enough. Australia, just by numbers, don't have enough. As of August 2025, there were 50 groups actively hacking using AI-crafted malware in Australia. 50. Now, none of these resulted in an autonomous AI attack, thankfully. But all of them, of those 50, all 50, were AI enhanced. And it's only a matter of time before those autonomous ones happen. Yeah. So we've got to up our game. 99%, I've got some statistics here I wrote on my computer. 99% of Australian organizations either implemented or plan to implement AI agents, models, and identity systems. And 98% of local security leaders identify AI attacks as a top concern. The Australian Prudential Regulation Authority, APRA, warns that AI is a new and evolving threat that threatens the Australian financial institutions. Yeah. So, where you can go? Well, I am a CISO, so I'm at the top end of the food chain when it comes to cybersecurity. But I started in IT. I started in hacking. I started and worked my way up from there. I think that starting at the basics with ethical hacking, with having a good background in networking and operating systems, both Linux and Windows and Mac OS for that matter. And if you're afraid of Linux, don't be afraid of Linux. Just go to Gemini and say, "Hey, Gemini, write me up a 2-hour Linux tutorial," and it will do it for you. Yeah. You'd be a security analyst. Security analysts are going to take that data and those points. That's going to you're going to use AI to analyze the issues that you're dealing with. In fact, I'd like to show you an example here in a moment after I finish the slides. Before I turn it back over, I'm going to show you how I can analyze an SMTP header. You can be an AI ethical hacker. You know, there's always room for more ethical hackers. Yeah. Always more room for ethical hackers. We need people that have the background, that have the ethics, and have the training in AI to do this, because we need them to be more efficient and faster. Then you can also be a security engineer. AI can enhance your security as far as building the systems. We got two programs that I want to kind of promote here. I want to give a plug to. One is Security Level 1. There's a Level 2 and a Level 3. It's ideal for IT professionals and for aspiring security analysts. Covers the essentials of cybersecurity and enhanced by artificial intelligence. You're going to have an understanding of operating systems and networking fundamentals, which you learn in the course. Threat, vulnerabilities, and exploits. Python programming for security and applications of AI and threat detection. And then my favorite, which is ethical hacker. I've been involved in ethical hacking for well over 25 years. I was responsible for rolling out a major ethical hacking training program in Europe 20 years ago, and I just love it. I think it's a great place to start a security career, even if you don't have the AI knowledge. And even if you don't have the IT knowledge, ethical hacking, especially this program, will give you the knowledge. Enough knowledge in IT to be dangerous, and the experience in AI to make ethical hacking really, really rock. AI-driven reconnaissance techniques. You know, it used to be that I just do the Google dorking. I can now use an engine that interacts with Google and does it for me. Automated vulnerability assessments, adversarial AI modeling, and looking at security, and also both passive and active scanning. And then in this program, you also have a capstone at the end. Now, why AI CERTs? Well, can you learn this on YouTube? Yeah, you can learn all you want on AI on YouTube. Yeah, you can learn how to be an ethical hacker on YouTube too. But the problem with YouTube is that the quality. I mean, is this old? Is it new? Do I know this person? But here's the deal. Organizations today need to mitigate risk, right? And in order to mitigate risk, they want their employees and their contractors to demonstrate they have tested skills. And the only way that you're going to get tested skills is through certification. Yeah. It's got to be through certification. If you just go in and say, hey, I've taken all these courses, or I did this free stuff on Udemy, anyone could do Udemy. Yeah. And I'm not putting it down or anything. Udemy has some great courses that's good for background knowledge. But if you really want to be professional, you want to get a certification. And I'm talking about someone who hires people. Yeah, I do take experience a lot, in my consideration, but that mark of certification is what's going to get you the job. Yeah. Okay. So before we get to key takeaways, I just want to show you a quick little thing here, using an SMTP header. Let me come here and see if I can get this to work.
While Michael's getting this up, can I just jump in for 2 seconds?
Yep.
If you've got questions, pop them in the chat and we'll get to those as well before we head off.
Please do.
Yeah.
Cool. Does everyone see this SMTP header? I hope so. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to come over here and I'll use Copilot. I'm just going to come here to Copilot and I'm going to drop this in into here. And I'm going to say, tell me what's wrong with this. What's wrong with this email? What's wrong? Hit enter. Boom. And it answers the question for me. Yeah, I should have an automated system to do this, but if I need to analyze something, my CEO has a problem, is this spam or not? I just grab the header, pop it in there, and it reads it for me. It's just amazing. It's just amazing on how fast this happens. Yeah, and I could do any number of things. I have another one where I can I'll come in here and I have Vodafone. Vodafone was had a problem, and they kept saying that was my internet connection. Let's see if I can show this. Okay, so what I did is I did a my trace route of the connection between my IP address and Google's DNS, and I was able to prove that it wasn't. Just come into here and I drop this in, and what's wrong with this network connection? And it goes in, it analyzes it. What's wrong with practical terms? Persistent low packet beyond your router. It's not my problem. It's not my fault. It's likely at the ISP access and aggregated layer. So lots of easy tricks, lots of efficiencies that can be had just in everyday use. But in ethical hacking and security, you're really going to go into hyperspace using AI. AI is an evolution. Yeah, security is a data problem. AI is the only scalable way to handle it. All that endpoint data coming from all the different machines, we cannot possibly look at all of them. And when we get that 10 to 20%, that's where we need to spend our time on and continue to use AI tools to get the answers. We need to, the attackers are going to be using AI just as fast as we're using it to defend. And it's the same game it was before. We are always on defense. They will come up with new attack vectors using AI, so we better have AI on our quiver in order to defend. We got to take an ethics first approach and got to upskill. Got to use the latest tools, got to get certification. So I will turn it back over to Jess, and thank you. Let's see if anyone's got any questions.
Thank you so much, Michael. If anyone had any questions, now's the time to ask, or you can put it into the chat if you didn't want to turn your cameras on or anything. But whilst we're doing that, I'll just whilst anyone comes through, I'll just let everyone know that we are running a promotion for those that have been on the call today. If you're interested in any of the AI CERTs courses, Vital Learning Edge are offering a 30% discount if you book via us. So I put a few things in the chat for you. I've just put my email address. So if you want to take advantage of that offer, just send me an email and I can help you there. I've put links to some of the courses that were mentioned in the chat as well. So I've put the prompt engineer in there, there's the ethical hacking and security level 1. And then it wasn't necessarily mentioned specifically, but there is also an ISO 42001 course, which might be of interest, which is a standard for AI governance and management. So if you're already ISO 27001 certified as an organization, it's a really great add-on to obviously add AI into your existing ISMS. So there's so many letters these days, right? But if anyone had any questions, now's the time. Otherwise, it looks like some people are typing away. Typing away. Shrishti, did you want to add anything? I want to say thank you to AI CERTs. Again, thanks to Michael for delivering the content. It was very eye-opening. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I would actually like to thank Michael and all the people attending this and sharing their feedbacks in the chat box. I can see they're already impressed by the presentation you gave, Michael. So thank you so much, everyone. And I think we already have shared all the links. Jez has been continuously dropping messages in the chat box. So any links that you'd require, any doubt or maybe any concerns after this presentation, you can obviously reach out to Vital Learning Edge or AI CERTs, maybe as per your convenience. We'll be happy to assist. Yeah, that's all.
Great. And I'll put my LinkedIn here if anyone wants to reach out. Happy to offer any help I can in getting you with VLE, excuse me, and help you with AI CERTs. Start your journey today, guys. The faster you start, the easier life's going to be.
Yeah. Here we have a question. With the use of AI, we might be feeding sensitive data into the AI data set. How do we prevent this?
Yep. Okay. So what you're looking for is you're looking for guardrails. And so you don't want to do it with an unpaid subscription, because when you upload sensitive data or any question into an unpaid subscription, it becomes part of the knowledge base. So I'm going to use Copilot as an example. Microsoft Copilot, if you have the paid subscription, what you're able to do is use Copilot Studio. And Copilot Studio is going to silo your data so only your organization has it. Effectively, I just did this recently. With a couple of our projects, we have hundreds and hundreds of documents. Now, I took those documents, fed them into Copilot Studio, created a knowledge base of that. So effectively what it did is it made its own ChatGPT of it. So now I can query that information. It will only look at that information as only available within my Microsoft estate. So if you're going to use Anthropic, would be the best one. Claude, if you're not going to use Microsoft, Claude, Anthropic, they want to be the privacy company. OpenAI is kind of questionable. They want to expand. Just make sure that the terms and conditions say that your information is going to be siloed and that it's not going to be used for training. Sometimes you will have the option to check if it's going to be used for training or not used for training. Grok, I like Grok because Grok is like talking to a buddy of mine at a pub. Yeah, he just comes out and says exactly what it thinks. But I would kind of worry about that one, to be honest with you. It's a great engine, don't get me wrong, but I don't know what their terms and conditions are when it comes to utilizing information that's sent to it.
Perfect. Well, again, my email address is in the chat. If anyone had any questions that they think about over the next couple of days, feel free to send me an email. I can pass them on to Michael and we can get some responses back to you if required. But yeah, otherwise, unless anyone had any questions, I think that's probably it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.